Our world lead, Argo, the Oscar-winning white-knuckle thriller about the Iranian hostage crisis, told the story about the people who escaped the crisis. But the film that won Best Picture may end up helping the people who were not as lucky, who were held for 444 days as prisoners, some of them enduring things like mock executions. There's a brand new push on the Hill to get them compensated, and our own Dana Bash talked to one of the hostages who's portrayed in the movie, along with the senator behind the new effort. Dana.
Well, you know, when you think about it, Jake, the Americans who were held hostage in Iran, they were basically the first victims of Islamic terrorism. And the 52 hostages, they came back. They were celebrated as heroes, but they were never allowed to seek damages from their Iranian captors. But there is a new idea to overcome that with a little help from Hollywood.
Actions of Iran have shocked.
It won an Academy Award, made people forget Geely when they think Ben Affleck.
Hello.
And now Argo may even pull off another feat, help move legislation through Congress.
Let's get a card over here.
This frustrated Foreign Service officer on the phone as the U.S. Embassy in Iran was under assault was portraying John Limbert.
I'm guessing that really happened.
Pretty much, yes. That part of it was quite real.
And this room has a lot of memories, huh?
It does. It does.
Keepsakes on Limbert's walls constantly remind him of his harrowing 444 days as a hostage in Iran. Not that he'd ever forget. But for most in America, the Iran hostage crisis some 34 years ago was a distant memory, until Argo brought it all back. Unlike the 6 Americans who hid with the Canadian ambassador, the focus of Argo, Limbert was one of the 52 Americans held and tortured by Iranians for 14 months.
I had a gun to my head. Was in solitary for 9 months.
He says the mock executions in the movie were very real.
They came in at I think 2 in the morning, pulled us out, and took us together to a place, and lined us up against the wall, and started chambering rounds into their guns, and yelling orders. We didn't know what was going to happen.
At that point, did you think you were?
I thought we were gone.
When Limbert and his fellow hostages were finally freed, they learned the U.S. government gave up something big in return. As part of the 1981 Algiers Accords, the hostages were barred from suing Iran in U.S. court for compensation. Decades of challenges to the Algiers Accords have gone nowhere.
Dana, how are you doing?
Now, Georgia Senator Johnny Isakson is pushing legislation to get former hostages financial reward in a different way, putting a surcharge on fines against companies that violate sanctions against Iran and using that money to create a compensation fund. Isakson says the popularity of Argo is helping.
A lot of people have seen it. They understand the abject horror that these people went through. Hopefully it'll give us the impetus and the momentum to see to it that after all these many years, they're actually compensated for their treatment.
His bill would allow hostages to get $10,000 a day for each day of captivity. $4.4 million total for each hostage. Isakson argues finally compensating the hostages is critical to send a message to Iran and to U.S. personnel in harm's way all around the world, especially after 4 were killed at the U.S. consulate in Libya.
They need to also know that if they get violated, if they are captured, if they are tortured, that we'll have their back.
This is me with the dorky glass. You see the dorky glasses?
They were very cool in the 70s.
Indeed.
Even after John Limbert was held captive for 14 months, he returned to the Foreign Service for the rest of his career. He now has a comfortable life. He says he is not fighting for the money, but for justice.
It's about accounting for it, to hold people responsible for what they did. Because the message so far, frankly, has been to the Islamic Republic, you got away with it.
Dana, interesting piece. The senator tried to do this last year. It didn't go anywhere. Can it pass Congress this year? And will Argo really be one of the reasons why, if so?
If so, I think the answer is undoubtedly yes. That would be the reason. He has a Democratic co-sponsor, which, as you know, in the Democratic-led Senate is critically important, Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut. And I talked to staff on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, which is where this has to go first. And they said that the chairman, Bob Menendez, is certainly, she wants to do what he can. He likes the idea of kind of this workaround to get the hostages this money. They probably have to tweak the legislation a little bit, but it is entirely possible that this could happen. It's hard to imagine if it does get through the Senate that it wouldn't get through the Republican-led House.
And is there any indication whether or not President Obama and his administration would sign it into law?
You know, what's so fascinating when I looked into this is that it turns out that most administrations have opposed doing anything to shake things up because it was a President Carter, who signed this, saying that the U.S. would not sue. So they didn't want to kind of breach that. But this is a new idea, again, to work around that, to get them the money a different way.
Go after the companies.
Go after the companies, the U.S. and other companies. It isn't exactly punishing Iran, but it is at least showing that the U.S. won't stand for this. So the answer is they're saying that they're looking into it. They're not saying no, which is kind of more than I think we've seen in past administrations about other ways to get these hostages some compensation.
All right, fascinating report, Dana Bash. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake.